Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, the opinion folks. From always Joy Page, aka the Emperor of Female Bobby Talk, coming to you live on YouTube. I hate to start this off with some sad news. Where May is it's a time of month where it's beautiful, it's shining bright. Today is Memorial Day weekend. Tomorrow will be Memorial Day. It's a holiday we celebrate here to remember those people who have served in behalf of our countries in defense of war, the military people that we have lost. This Veterans Day, we salute our veterans, but this is the day we salute the fallen heroes of war. And it's kind of almost fits in a way. We have some sad news on the front here. I just saw this afternoon. A particular lady who I follow on social media. She is an IFB pro, and her story was it's just sad. The situation happened. It happened it happened yesterday, and I didn't see it at first till somebody pointed it out to me. I want to shout out to my man Ken. I saw something with Ken posting. Ken's been on here, and I went and it was confirmed. We had a passing, and it is such a shocker, especially someone so young, so amazing. A lady who really has been in sport for quite some time and made a bonus finally get a pro card. We had the passing of the lovely Mrs. Suchi Butler. As you know, Suchi has been a pro since 2022. She got a pro card at the Nationals. That was in Florida. It was the same year as some other ladies like I think it's the same show that Salika Gibbons got her pro card. And Suchi is originally from Japan, but she grew up here in the United States. And she competed for quite some time. She did a couple of shows. Her last competition was the 2025, Masters Olympian. She competed, I believe, in women's physique. And also she doubled it before. She did physique and women's bodybuilding. And she got a qualification that year at the Legion Sports Festival. That was the last year women's physique was at that show. They don't carry it anymore. So she left behind a letter, and this is some of it. I'm going to read it to you. This is from Suchi. Says, if you're reading this, I've gone from this universe. I do have depression, anxiety, PTSD, gerophobia, OCD all my life, but I have been able to manage that with medications. But after I came back from Masters Olympia last year, my post-depression was really bad due to my bad result. I could not really recover from that. Specifically, it was in Japan from my country and spent so much money. And slowly I've stopped training. I've started having financial problems. I've lost my car and got evicted, and I've lost everything. Now I have nowhere to go, and I've lost hope. So I decided to leave this universe. Some people say death is not option, but sometimes it is. I'd rather die than being on the streets. Everyone dies. It's just a matter of when. Only one regret is that I could not make my mother happy. I failed on that one. Oh God. I've talked about this on my channel before, about the facts of how bodybuilding can be a mental, financial, emotional strain on anybody. And if you're the type of person who cannot handle that, it's the best advice not to get into sport. But if you do have those problems or issues, seek help. There are programs out there that they do offer help for free. You don't have to pay, because they know that what now things going on here, especially with how finances are going, how the things are changing. This is probably right now in this period of time, it's probably one of the biggest attacks on mental health with what's going on here, and that's not just in America, but just across the world. But there are some factors here in America that's really, really serious. I think we are the worst country when it comes to mental health. We don't think about it, especially in certain communities. My community and other minority communities, we look at it as a problem of the white community, but it affects everybody because we're all humans. When I say race, I don't say color. I say we are human race. When you say my color is my ethnicity. It's not my race, but we're humans. We have different things about us, but we do share so much of some certain qualities and traits. Suchi, I've followed for a long time. I was waiting to see her be a pro. I know she's also was a training client and a friend of Hella Trevino. And Hella, she saw the post. A lot of people wanted to help, but I guess by the time it was too late. And especially if she's from a country, she's from Japan, they're very have a lot of pride and tradition in those parts of the world. And I don't think that something like this could get help. Depression, yes, is a bad thing, but don't let thinking about taking your own life be that last instrument. Get the help, get assistance. If you know somebody, I don't know if anybody was willing to help her or she didn't ask for the help. That's the thing sometimes is, some people may not want to help and some people don't want to ask for help. They feel like they can do it on your own, but you can't. If it ever gets to the point where you feel like it, seek help. There's people who are, and sometimes not be always going to be a family or friends. Sometimes you get more help from a stranger. You know, she was a lovely lady. She had great potential to do well in this sport. It takes time. It's not a quick, fast, and hurry sport. And I keep talking about this. But for any of you out there are several organizations that do suicide and help with depression. And also there's organizations, even though things are tight financially, can help you with finances. You can go someplace that can set you up for a while. And if you do have friends and families that get, hey, if you got a spot, a couch, a floor, someplace you can sleep, and maybe take yourself to, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, it's going to take time. You have to be patient and, can't rush it. It's tough. She was a lovely lady. I will say that my condolences to her family. Condolences to her friends such as Hel Trevino, Gina Carrello, quite a few other ladies that knew her well. One thing I would love to have the opportunity to talk with her, and share her story. Maybe that would have helped. I don't know. You never know. Sometimes it takes one little thing, or somebody just say, hey, if you need something from me, let me know. And if it's genuine and it's really useful, please, people, take the advice, take the help. Don't be afraid. Don't run away, and don't use the excuse that death is easy. Death is not easy. Once you're gone, you can never come back. Maybe come back in another spirit in their life. You believe that, but there's people here that you leave behind that will love you and miss you. So we'll give a few minutes, and we'll give condolences, a moment of silence for Suchi Butler. Okay, God bless you, little monster, and Dominagato. So, folks, I think we talked about this a bit so often. I was hoping to have some guests, and here I get tired of chicken, yellow belly. You like the subject, but you don't have the courage to come on here. I understand, but this is about your sport. We have people say something, but this is where I talk about how bodybuilding has evolved, especially particularly divisions. As you know, Fit Model is coming in. And I saw this post by a guy, Tariq Gundy. He's a judge, and he's talked about this. How, I'm gonna pull it up in a minute. How if you go down to another division, coming down from a bigger division, it changed the aspects a bit of that division. It's just from. I'm gonna zoom real quick before I get my panel on, and y'all gonna get what I'm talking about here. So this is from Tariq, and he talks about how I think it's points out really how it's not a good idea when in some cases, because it's most definitely, this is why I'm not a big fan of Fit Model, because this is going to happen eventually.
And we have to mark them down because they got the overdeveloped shoulders. I don't want to see any veins anywhere, right? So you got to look at your physique and say, I'm fit, but I'm not separated anywhere that's prominent. I don't have any veins, and there's no muscle here that's really round. We don't want to see the capped shoulders. We don't want to see the capped glutes. It's the softest of all categories.
Truthfully, yes. It is shout out to Trish Wood, who's been a guest. She mentioned on my man's Jeremy's podcast a while back on his roundtable discussion that it is the basic bitch division. It's not even, women in bikini right now are more defined than women in the Fit Model. And if you're getting laid coming from bikini all the way down to Fit Model, how is the aesthetics of that division going to look? So we have a couple of guys in here, a couple of my brothers. They're more fans of the sport as much as I did. Maybe really I enjoyed their console, because these are guys are really generally fans of women with muscle. So shout out my man here, KL the Wonder, he's coming through.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? KL just recently did an interview this afternoon with a lovely young lady. We both I interviewed myself, and we got some interviews coming around the corner. He's gonna be busy, I think, in the next couple of weeks. So thank you for coming through, brother.
Yeah, I can't stay long. Gotta stay like maybe a half an hour.
I appreciate it. I
So
appreciate it. Time to give me, I appreciate it. Also, we got my man here, Job Simpkins, coming through.
What's good, Empire Nation?
hey, what's up?
Yeah, yeah, what's up?
First thing I want to say is my condolences to Miss Shusi, man. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I
R.I.P.
mean, yeah, and it was just last month. She just celebrated her birthday, and the lady was
Mm-hmm.
in her 50s, and you wouldn't think. You look at her, you wouldn't think she was. Wow, she looked like she was really, So, but anyway, gentlemen, is we talked about this quite often on my channel. The problem is that if you're coming down from maybe a bikini or a figure, or you're coming down from women's bodybuilding to even to wellness, it kind of changed the aesthetics of the division. So do you think that it's a good idea to make that move, or it should be better just, you know what, let me just work where I'm at instead of trying to go to someplace else where I might not fit?
Well, for me, it's kind of like being traded to another team in a sport like football or basketball. Hey, if you think the grass is green on the other side and you think you can do better, then I'm okay with that. I have no problem with it. If they want to downsize their muscles and try another division like wellness or even figure, some that aspect.
Well, I agree with that. But then, like I said, it's also, it takes that time to bring in that, conditioning or shape for that division. Because if you're coming from women's bodybuilding, recently we saw that Christina Mendoza is making that move.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, with Christina, I think she has.
It's going to take some time for her.
Yeah, she has some mistakes because she does have the bigger legs, the thicker quads. But then she's been a bodybuilder for at least several years. And even if she do kind of drop size, she still carries some of those heavy aesthetics from women's bodybuilding. I remember back in the day when they was starting physique, and after a while, quite a few female bodybuilders were coming down from physique to from women's body to physique. And then I think if you look at it now, it kind of changed the overall look of that division.
Now you see women's physique competitors getting huge, look like they should be in women's bodybuilding. The roles have changed. I was watching the Miami Pro yesterday. These wellness competitors, they look like women's physique competitors. But shout out to Kawashima. She won yesterday. She looked great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing is, like right now, you put that point that we are seeing some girls in wellness who are getting just as big as conditioning. Like somebody I often mention on here, Tiff Sam, where she, I think she's just, I don't know how long could she stay in wellness. If she's getting, wellness supposed to be the idea of wellness was to be like a streamlined version of maybe a bigger version of bikini, but with like the upper body of a bikini competitor, lower body of a bodybuilder. But now you're having girls who look more like bodybuilders in high heels.
They do. It's supposed to be lower body dominant, but the looks of it, when I saw the Miami Pro yesterday, even their upper body is like getting jacked. I remember back in 2021, it was more of a softer look.
Yeah, and Tiff, she's like I said, we close here with Tiff, and Tiff is a impressive young lady. I mean, but again, if you look at her, even though her quads are supposed to be kind of that certain dominance, some say that it's more gaining around more of the upper body. If you look at her, here she is. She's like she has those good connections in the abductors. Maybe too much, developing the
glutes
abs.
and hams tie-ins, and
When she always Was she always like a bodybuilder, like in women's bodybuilding?
I think she might have done figure or bikini before,
No.
but like some of the other ladies, bikini, one time, you had a lot of bikini competitors jumping up to wellness, and then you have figure competitors dropping down to wellness and physique competitors. But even right now, if you're supposed to be kind of like a bikini competitor, but with a little bit bottom half of a bodybuilder, you look more like a physique competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, as I said earlier about Christina Mendoza coming over, and Christina, she's been competing for quite some time, as a women's bodybuilder. And the question is, how long could she, because it's going to take some time for her to, she's looking really good. But even if she does get to that level, now look at this. This is like maybe a split from about a year or so ago till I think right about now, just with a few months difference. Only thing she's doing is like with her hair, she's hiding her shoulders.
But what?
Yeah.
I have a question. What
I
do
noticed
you
that.
what do you think about the people that double dip?
Well, that's only the amateurs. That's the problem with the amateurs, because when you double dip, that means, and the only reason they do that because some competitors want to take that opportunity to see how they stretch, see how they do in one class or one division over another, and that's allowed in the amateurs. But that should be cut out in the amateurs, where you should like stick to when you come compete, like what they do with Fit Model. When you do Fit Model, you only do that division. You don't jump over to another division. And then it's also things as numbers game, because some competitors, they may not be enough competitors for that division. Like you will see girls jump from physique to women's bodybuilding. You see girls jump from physique to figure. You see figure to bikini. Sometimes I know one lady I interviewed, Tamika, Tucker. She did when she got a pro card. She was doing both figure and wellness, but she got a pro card in figure. And that's the thing is, in the amateurs, they allow that. But if they do the same rules like they do a Fit Model and cut it to, okay, you do this one division, you'll do the other division. What it does is like you'll see how you gauge in that division, or it forces you to, let me move to this division, just do that division. But the problem is the promoters make money off of how many divisions or classes you do at a show. So it goes back, it's a money thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
You see, and even though she's really good here, but still, I think you can see some of the issues like around her shoulders. She still has those full round shoulders, a bit more capped.
She looked like she could have been about stay in bodybuilding.
Yeah. But the problem is,
I mean, it takes time to.
Go ahead.
I said it takes time to lose that upper body.
Because one thing, she has to drop off on certain stuff. She has to cut back on certain carbs and food. Change her whole entire diet, because you have to slim yourself down and also try to make yourself look softer. Because even though you do drop a lot of muscle mass, you still have to have that softness look to it. But even girls in bikini are getting to the point where you look at them now. You've seen girls like this is a lady I saw.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on the bikini girls.
Yeah,
It look like they could be a figure.
It's just, this is a lady her name is Carrie Saxon. I saw this, and I'm looking at this pictures I saw of her, and this lady, if she ever think about it, she's, wait a minute, let me see, that's her man. It's a boy here. There you go. If you look at it from the back, her, especially around the adductors and the quads, she looks closer to wellness than she does bikini.
That's more of a wellness look.
Yeah, it's close to wellness, a little bit also close to figure. Her muscle density. Now this is supposed to be bikini, and if you look at the girls in bikini now, they are getting more dense, more size. And they say the same thing about bikini. They don't want too much gyration in the glutes. They don't want too much
You're starting
cap
to
in the
see that.
shoulders. Yeah. They want your abs to be too well, dominant. Yes, she still looks very feminine, but if she ever thinks about it, maybe take a year off, put on more size. Like I know Mikael a while back when he was at New York Pro, he ran into a young lady, and her story was, that was her pro debut. Her name is Yassi, and Yassi actually was doing bikini, you know,
Yeah.
and this is, if you look at her, to me, this is really figure.
No, that's
You can
figure.
really, that's figure. You can look at her. She has not too much size in the traps. Great lean, nice taper. Not too big. And that's the thing is, that's the problem is the girls even in figure are getting way big, and that if you compare her
Hmm.
to that chick Carrie, they look like they could be in the same division.
If you look at women like L'Oreal Chapados and bikini, she's starting to get some size on her.
Yeah, that's the thing is the size factor. And it goes
Hmm.
back to the issue of judging. Like the judges, are they not calling us out? I'm not saying, like Tariq said earlier, loud. He's saying you don't want women in fit model to have those same cap round shoulders, but you're not doing the same thing to other divisions you're seeing you're seeing that little like thin line between physique and women's bodybuilding or figure and
Yeah.
physique or even wellness. Um, where does it end where you sit down and say, you know what, we created this division for certain criteria. So I understand if you want to come down there because it might fit you, but then at the same time, as athletes, you should be able to want to evolve and grow.
Oh yeah. It's called bodybuilding for a reason. If I was a coach, I'd be like, hey, maybe you should consider moving up to women's bodybuilding or
Yeah,
something like that. If I saw my client growing like that or downsize, if that's the case.
the thing is, a lot of them they like the training and the dieting, the practicing. It's the hard part to downsize. Once you get into it, it's hard to step away from it.
Yeah. Once you get going, you can't even stop. Once you start seeing the results, yeah, it makes you keep going.
Yeah, it's bodybuilding. Like I said again, it's a very subjective sport. The discipline,
Yeah.
you can call it discipline, but it's always something about it that you need to work on. Um, I remember I was watching this video I found. It was from something I saw. Actually, I saw it on a site that I follow. As you know, I follow Girls with Muscle, and
Hmm.
this was what it was like after a show. If it was doing the show, it was Sandy Williamson, and if you know her, if you heard of her, the legendary Valentina Chapigin. Now, Valentina, remember,
Thrilled to
was
be here with Sandy.
was the the first she was part of one half of Miss Olympia back in 2000. Her and Julia
Yeah.
Blachette. And if
Okay.
you
I
remember,
drew the set.
yeah, and you remember that was the year they kind of split the baby. And
Hmm.
this is where I will say the birth of the physique division came from because it was like post after Kim Zavetsky and before Leah
Yeah.
Murray came back. So this is the video I saw. It's with Sandy Williamson and another gentleman and Valentina, where really they get a breakdown of the poses. And if you look at it, even though Andrula is that's not true, Valentina is bodybuilding. She's doing physique poses, and they used to do some of those poses too. But so
Hmm.
you get the point of it. So I'm about to pull it up here.
Sandy Rinaldi and Valentina Chapiga, the current Miss Olympia. Sandy's going to take us through some of the compulsory poses and some of the symmetry rounds that we look at for these athletes. They're very specific, aren't they?
Definitely. What first thing that we do as a judge is when the athlete comes out, they're going to go through the quarter turns. They're going to face us, standing forward with their arms at their side and their heels together. And you're looking at the width of the shoulder development, how it's proportioned to the lower body, the symmetry of the waistline, a sweep to her outer thighs, her calf development.
When we talk about balance, what are you looking for?
You look at her waist, the taper of her waist, the outer sweep to her thigh, her calf development. Next, she does a quarter turn to the right. And as a judge, I'm looking at her development of her chest as proportioned to her glute development, sweep of her hamstring, again, proportioned against her quadricep and her calf development, quarter turn to the rear. And now I'm looking at the width of her back, how her back tapers down to her waist, the glute development, the back of her hamstrings, and her calves. Quarter turn to the right. And again, I'm looking at the development from the other side of her body with the chest development. And last, it's a quarter turn back facing the judges.
How's Valentina holding up in the symmetry round, Sandy?
Oh, I think I definitely give her a 10 out of 10 in that round.
I would have to agree. The next round, of course, is muscularity, and there are specific poses that you're looking for here. Am I correct?
Yes, we have 5 mandatory poses in the NPC, and the first one is the front double bicep. And the athlete usually sets their leg first, and then brings their arms up. And obviously you're looking for the bicep development, but you're also looking for her quadricep development. You'll see a little bit of her abdominal development. So even though it's called the front double bicep, you're looking at really all the muscle development to the front. Next, either side is for her side chest.
Does the athlete have a choice in terms of which side they can choose to
Yes.
pose here?
Yes, and most athletes know that, which side is their is their better side. And you're looking for chest development. The athlete will try to lean down a little bit so that the judges can see the depth of her chest muscle. You're looking for your delt muscle. You're also looking for your bicep and your tricep. You're looking for glute, especially hamstring development here. And again, the front of the quad and also her calf development.
Very good.
And then she's going to do a back double bicep.
How often do you see athletes that look very well developed from the front and then tend to lose a little bit when they turn to the rear?
Often. And as an experienced judge, that's one of the things you always wait till you see the back, the back of a bicep first. Because again, here you're looking not only for back development, the thickness, for the width, you're looking for the back of her shoulder development. Again, her tricep development, her glute. Is there like a definition, line between the glute and the hamstring development and her calf development?
Very nice, Valentina.
And then again, it's a turn to either side for side tricep. And again, we allow the athlete to go to whatever side that they feel is their better side. And you're going to look as a judge, again, even though it's the tricep, you're still going to look for your shoulder development. You're going to look for heads of the tricep balanced out against the bicep. The athlete usually makes sure that you see her glute development, again, the hamstring development, and the quadricep development.
Looking at the whole picture.
Absolutely.
How important is it for an athlete to be fluent between these poses as opposed to just mechanical and rigid?
It's very important, especially the higher up you get, the quality of the contest, like at the national level, the professional level, because it just tells you that the athlete is very secure in how they're tightening their muscles and and how they're presenting their physique to you. And then the last pose that you'll see is hands overhead abdominal. And this is definitely a combination of all the muscle groups, because what you're going to look for is obviously the muscle development, but also the serratus development. And usually the athletes will change legs so that you get a good picture of how their quadriceps are developed. And usually from this picture, as a judge, you can make your decision.
I'm convinced I'm going to have to switch to Bud Light. Since the entire system is based on points, how important is the final round, the posing round itself, when they put together the routines?
Again, it's very important because it allows the athlete to present their better body parts to the judges in the way they want us to see them. When they do the mandatory poses, and at that point, the judges are ready to make their decision.
NPC judging official, Sandy Rinaldi, and the current Miss Olympia, Valentina Chapiga. Thank you so much. That gives us a much better understanding of the NPC.
That's a good point, because that's the one thing when you look at divisions, it's supposed to be a certain look that supposed to be was the standard. As you know, she was doing more of the poses you see in women's physique today. Back then,
Yeah.
the division haven't started yet. It was like almost a good 12, I would say 10, 11 years before we started women's physique. And that was the person I think was a good example why they created that division. It's always been the debate where why did they split two Miss Olympias where you could have just had one? You know,
just one.
yeah. So I think this is my thought on it. Valentina at the time was very popular. She also did another thing with Linda Murray at a show where we were using her as a model, and she had a good look to her, very feminine, very aesthetic. You know, she was a very attractive lady. Can't deny that. And Drew Bichette, if you remember Andrew Bichette from back in the day, she was popular.
Man, she was massive. Yeah.
And she was competing as a lightweight, while Valentina was competing as a heavyweight. So even under the average, below the weight standard of, I think, what is it? At 150 to 160 was heavyweight in women's bodybuilding. 140
it should still be like that, but I don't know why they did that.
Well, because they just didn't. I don't know. They just feel like they couldn't keep it under control. Whatever reason,
they still can't keep it under control.
Yeah, they can't. It's just always been an issue when it comes to weight size classes. Women are always going to be different from men. Men, we're built a certain way, and we can put on muscle really good, because we have natural testosterone. Women don't, and then that's why you have multiple divisions. Right? That's why you have divisions like women's bodybuilding. You have physique, you have figure, you have wellness, you have fitness and bikini, fit model.
Well, I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to do it. I was expecting.
Because those divisions, for whatever reason, is for each different body types. But that's the thing is, even though some women have their body types, and many of you, Kale did with Lucy, she talks about how genetics fits into this, where I think some women can put on muscle naturally more than other women. I think some women can fit in a division because they maybe are a certain body type. Now, we're talking about
7 different body types at that.
Yeah, and we're talking about how some women look like she would do with bodybuilding. Now, it's a debate. I don't know if she'll ever do it. What one lady that's really been getting a lot of attention lately.
Oh my goodness! Did you read the comments, my man?
Yes, Sarah Bradley. Sarah just did an interview with the Female Body Channel. I watched it. It's a pretty good interview.
It was.
Yeah, I watched it. She's a very strong, intelligent young lady, and she's dedicated. But there's the debate of, does she really belong in women's physique anymore? Even though with her height, she's only like she's 5'2", but she's no more maybe an inch taller than Angela Yo.
I mean, look at that back.
And this is just maybe think about a couple of weeks out, 2 weeks out from, she's going to be competing in Ultima, and also she said she could do Toronto in a couple of weeks after this. Now, this is just a couple of weeks out, and if he does trim down and drop maybe 10 more pounds so she'd be able to be in more condition, the question is, how should she look on stage? There's women right now in WPD that are still kind of, they still had that aesthetic of women's physique. If you look at a good example of that is Natalia Cuejo and Sarah Vilgas, who's been top 2 for the last 4 or 5 years.
They both have small waists though.
They have the small waist, and the thing is, that small waist is the one thing the judges look at, because when you look at women's physique, you can have that smaller waist, like figure. That's why, like, if you look at Natalia, she crossed over from figure to do women's physique, and now she's the champion. Another example is Shanique Grant. Shanique was a champion for a good while, but now Shanique's doing well. Yeah. And if you look at wellness, again, how divisions evolve, women coming from other divisions like physique and women's bodybuilding.
I probably should have gotten ready.
Yeah, has that really affect the aesthetic of that division?
I mean, for example, wellness competitor, look at Jay Cristaldo. Her arms are getting massive. It looks like she's not going to be in wellness not too long if she keeps it up.
We got here in the comments section, shout out to my man, Art of Female Muscle. I just dropped a link, brother. If you want to join us, man, Kiel just popped out. Appreciate you coming through. It says, it's the same BS they've been doing with the women's division for the last 25 years. That's true.
It's the Merlin.
Yeah. Also, we have here from my man here, Dole saying, hi, everyone. How you doing, brother? How you doing? And also he says, especially to my man George Page. Thank you, brother. Shout out to my man KL. He came through for a bit. He said he might come back, but appreciate him coming through. But that's the thing is, we keep talking about how he's popped in here. Shout out to my man here. He's here. To our man the Merlin.
The Merlin.
Hi guys.
Hey.
How's it going? Happy Sunday fun day.
Hey, how's it going? Hope you guys have a good weekend.
For me, every day is a weekend. I don't
No, I mean,
watch it anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean a good Memorial Day.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
But we talked about this several times how when some of these ladies are coming from all the way from women's bodybuilding, that's like they're jumping over 2 divisions to get into wellness. And some people say that it's a move because maybe it helps them look or something like that. But again, would that change aesthetics when you're bringing in some of those that development from women's bodybuilding all the way to wellness?
I don't think it would. I think the thing that determines the criteria or what the women are going to be striving for is quite simply what the judges reward. I mean, they can try and slim themselves down as much as they can, but it's up to the judges as to where they place. And so even if they do want to jump 2 to 3 divisions, that's fine. I mean, they can do that. It's just a question, especially if you're going from like Christina Mendoza, jumping from women's bodybuilding 2 divisions down to wellness. It's going to take a long time to lose that upper body muscularity. And I mean, even if she wants to keep the lower half, which I think would do her a great, I don't know if that would necessarily do a good service for her in wellness, but still, it's going to take a while, I would think, to lose all of that dense, hard muscle to be able to be competitive in wellness. I don't know if she's planning to jump in this year or if she's planning to take some more time off to slim down more, but I think ultimately they can do that all they want. Obviously, it's their physique, it's their choice. It's just it comes down, the look of the division comes down to what the judges are rewarding, regardless if the woman is making the jump down or up for that matter. So it comes down to what are they rewarding, because that's what the women pay attention to. All the competitors all over the world are glued to their computer screens during the Miss Olympia, and that's for all the divisions, to see who are the torchbearers, who are the trendsetters, who are the ones who are the top in division, and they're all going to model their look based off of them. So I think even if they do make the jump, I don't think that in and of itself is necessarily going to affect the look of the division as much as are the judges going to reward that look, if and when it comes in.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is the judges. You have judges telling girls in wellness, not in wellness, but figure to get more bigger and more fuller. But define, what did you want bigger, fuller? If some women thinking, okay, maybe I just widen my back in it, and while they're training their back, they might even develop their traps. They get more density in their back. They don't want you to be too dense where you look like you could be doing women's physique or even women's bodybuilding. I mean, and if the judges are the ones who are saying, hey, okay, that's good. But if another judge says, no, that's too dense, we like I saw that video with Tariq, they don't want too much serration to glutes, especially if you're bikini. They want too much fullness in the quads. They want that, like with fit model, they want that happy. No, they want you to look pretty much like the regular beach body girl. You just came off the beach, here. That's what they want. But then we having women coming from all the way from bikini coming down there. And you usually come down because you feel like, okay, that's the division that fits me. But if you've competed a long time in that division and you have grown that division and you feel like you're not doing as far, it's not that the problem is with your look. It's about what like you say the judge rewarding.
Well, I mean, even if they do come down again, it's like they can come with a look that they think is going to be rewarded, but it isn't up to them. Mm-hmm. It's up to what the judges say. And then also what you said earlier is they're wanting to come up with something that the average girl would look like. Fitness comes along, they said that about that. Figure comes along, they said that about that. Bikini comes along, they said that about that. They've been saying the same shit for 25 years now. They haven't been consistent yet. It just
Nope.
it just astonishes me when they come out with this stuff and they keep making the same rationales and the same arguments as to why we need a new division. It's like, really? Then why in the world did you say that about all these other divisions when they came on? And now look at where they are.
7 divisions deep.
Right.
Longer shows.
And understand, guess what's going to happen? Fit model is going to get out of control. They're going to start rewarding a look that they're not going to like about that. And then that's going to get out of control. Then they'll do what they've done 5 times in the past. They'll issue a warning memo saying, hey, everybody needs to get smaller or everybody needs to get it under control. They did it in 1994, 2000, 2004, 2015, and they did it with a meeting at the Rising Phoenix specifically for women's bodybuilding in 2016, because they said in the meeting, we want a toned down look. So that's the history of this. And if they don't do something to rein this in, we're going to see 8, 9, 10 divisions, and we're going to see shows that start on a Wednesday and ends on a Sunday.
Exactly.
Who's going to be able to go to that? No. Who's going to be able to take the time to do that as a fan or as a competitor? It's just getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, with the men, other than you have men's classic, men's physique, you have 212 and men's bodybuilding, and even those guys over there. Somebody see a video of a guy. He does. I think he was at Pittsburgh. He does men's classic, and he looks like he should. He's doing men's physique. He looked like all you need to do is change his trunks and work on his legs, and he should do men's classic. But with the guys, they give that allowance. They can get bigger and huge. If you go back to the classic style of the Steve Reeves, or you go back to Arnold, or you go back to Lee Haney, and then you look at guys like Nick Walker and Samson Duda, and you look at Nick Urs, Andrew Jack, and even one guy who got to meet Derek Lungford. Those guys can get as big and freaky as they want. Mm-hmm. But the women are limited to by what they have to be. They have to look. With women, they're always going to be a different type. That's why with wellness, women do so well, because you have some women might have, like, good example, like Kristen Mendoza, who's a little more bottom heavy naturally because she's Cuban. You look at someone like Natalia, who has a smaller waist. You look at someone like Sarah, who's very lean. You look at someone like Andrea, or you look at Teresa Invasic, who has probably one of the best backs for women's bodybuilding. She did take a stint. She did a step back, and she did women's physique for about a minute, but then she was still not doing so well. I think when she did women's physique, that was 2021. She was 7th. That was at the Chicago Pro. That was the year in Atlanta, and she took 7th. She took I think she took a year off, and she made a return at a show called the Indie. I think it was, at the Indie Pro. That's a show a friend of mine who I'm gonna bring up, Jada did. And Jada, as she's been, through, at least in her competition as a pro,
like
she has
like 3 divisions she did.
I would say 4, but as a pro,
4
she's done 3. And she started out as figure, and then she switched over to physique. And then she started she did bodybuilding for a year or 2, and then she did wellness. And as she's going back to physique. And with Jada, I think with her, she's it's the height. I think Jada's a naturally tall girl, and to me, wellness is not a division for taller women. If you're gonna do wellness, I think you should be shorter.
I mean, look at L'Oreal Del Sol. She won 2, the Pittsburgh and in New York. She's like 6'5", 5'11". She won them things, and she looked great too. So,
will she do wellness?
Yeah.
That's go back to what Jeremy's saying. That's what the judges are rewarding. Her look. She has a certain look that they're rewarding. But generally, who wins most of the shows, especially at the Olympia, it's the Brazilians. And some of those women are maybe at the tallest, maybe 5'4", if anything, above 5'5", and they have that more rounder, thicker hips, the bigger glutes, aesthetically by genetics. That's why it's a lot tougher for women who don't have those ethnic traits to do so well. Shout here to my man here. Noto says, I can't wait to see the day that George makes a interview with Arnold. That would be fucking great. It'll never happen. I'm not big enough for him to come on, like I just George, I just had to come to talk to you and tell you that I'm not the bad guy here, I just whoa, calm down,
Get the chopper.
Get the chopper, Dylan. So also he says, how much is worth the USA bodybuilding and fitness world, like TV or internet coverage, selling merchandise, selling products and promotions? Well, to me, they don't do enough of it. Because I don't know, whoever is controlled, like one thing, IFB do have like a little clothing line. We talked about this before, like about money. Where does that money go? They'll like one thing is because bodybuilding being so streamed, it's hard to get the attention to it like on news unless it's someone who just passed away or something like this happened. It's just hard. Either they don't really work on that part like you're supposed to, especially this is supposed to be a professional sport.
Mm-hmm. Professional league.
Yeah, but it's just the same thing. It's that 99.9% of the world doesn't give a shit about bodybuilding, nor do they even know about it. I mean, it's like everybody hypes up the Olympia weekend. 99% of the planet has no idea what that is. If you had any pro basically go out on the street corner of any major city in the world and said, "Hey, I'm IFBB pro such and such," not only is the majority not going to have any idea who they are, they're not going to have any idea what an IFBB pro even is or what it even stands for. So
yeah.
And I think there are a lot of factors that go into that, but it's just a simple fact is that to answer the question, how much is it worth? As far as that goes, not much. Because I mean, the majority of their income is coming from largely revenue from the pros. They're having to pay for their pro cards. They're having to pay for all this stuff just to even be able to get to the shows. And the same thing with the amateurs on that level. That's where they're making their money. I mean, yeah, you go ahead and put the internet coverage out, and yeah, you can do selling merchandise or products, but I mean, even the promoter said I think it was Linda Murray, Sidney Gillen, and Andrea Shaw. They just had an episode on Olympia TV, and they echoed what Keith has said on this show, is that the moneymaker is the amateur division. That's why a lot of these shows are pro-ams, that they're both a combination of pro and an amateur show, and they say that's where the money is. That's where they make their money from, not necessarily the pro show.
Because you have multiple competitors competing, and you might have, like I said again, you might have people cross over and doing this multiple divisions or multiple classes, and they pay for it. While amateurs, there's other than masters, you don't pay. As you know, shout out to Jeremy and Josh. They tagged me in something. As you know, coming up in about another couple of months is going to be Chicago Pro
Masters,
right?
And
but where's the Open?
Yeah, and that's the question is, where's the Open? And this kind of last minute they dropped this, because it's already once you hit May, the season's really starting to pick up because you have more shows. Like next week we're going to have the Ultimate Classic, and also there's a show in Spain, the Masters of Spain. So we're gonna have some shows coming up, and I sent the links to some ladies. Some ladies say they would love to do the show, but they're not ready for it because they were probably going to do another show, which is going to be a master show. Only one outside of Mine said another Tim Gardner show is the Tampa Pro. Also, there's the Masters World Championships, and it's not that many shows outside of that, and also Toronto they do 40 plus that do the Masters class. And if you're going to have, and the thing about Masters, you pay to play. And I think somebody told me it's like $300 to $350 per entry in each class. And, we just had the Puerto Rico Pro. We only had 2 women doing women's bodybuilding, and you had the Triple O, which was that a week or so before, and you had a lot of ladies doing that. But then there wasn't as many ladies for that show because the cost of traveling that, And the thing is, if you're going to have, the Masters, wouldn't it be fair to also have you have both Masters of women's physique and women's bodybuilding, all the other women's physique, all the other divisions going to have their Masters, but you're not going to have the Open for women's bodybuilding, which is kind of a slap in the face.
Well, it depends. I mean, bear in mind you have to have a sanction fee to be able to get a division in. And as far as I know, it's a separate one for both Masters as well as Open. So, I mean, it's come choice of being nothing at all versus one, which I believe is what, 10,000, not including prize money. Then it's like if you want to, as far as I know, for both Open and Masters, I think it's a separate sanction fee. So it'd be $20,000 altogether to be able to bring that in. And you look at all about how long it's taken for Anastasia for her GoFundMe account to be able to try and get up to the amount of money where they said they needed in order to be able to get the Tampa Pro going. I mean, it's taken a long time for her just to be able to get that money. Now, she said that now she announced that she finally, through another sponsor, has gotten all the money that's needed. But still, up to that point, I think it was still like what? There was like $3,000 still needed.
Yeah.
Even after they got prior to them getting the sponsorship, I mean, that other extra $3,000 or so that would have come out of Anastasia's own pocket. So it's like, and that's where that stood. So it's like, if it's that hard to get people interested to pay the sanction fee for one division, for one show, I mean, we would have to do this on a regular basis, and it's a question of how many people are going to be willing to do that per show. So, I mean, I think it's not necessarily a bias on the part of Gardner or anybody else. It's just a question of money. I mean, it may be that you need a separate sanction fee for Open as opposed to Masters. So that could be a reason why they weren't able to get the
that makes sense.
Sanction fee. So
yeah, and see, and with Masters, since they pay in, they usually take that money from the Masters payout to cover the cost of the prize money. It's depending on how many competitors. That's one reason you notice that this year, Linda Murray has taken the Masters out of her show. She's not having it this year. It was a surprise. She had the last couple of years, but because last year she had a very low number. She only had altogether 4 women, and 3 were doing Open and 3 were doing Masters. And that was kind of it was kind of shocking when I saw that, because this is the Linda Murray show. She's she's probably one of the biggest advocates for women's bodybuilding, and you would think, but then some ladies were doing like either they did the Masters Olympia, and someone probably wasn't ready. Then some wasn't ready for the travel costs, but then some just did the Tampa Bay Pro. So it's just barely a week in between that show. So you tell me you have enough time, maybe just swing by. But then again, it goes back to the cost of expenses. Shout out to my man Nodos. He's asking some questions. Says, what's the most unusual thing or situations what happened in IB or USA bodybuilding world that never happened before?
Let's see. Rotating stage, you don't have that.
That's in Portugal. They do that. That's pretty cool.
I know.
I would say goes back to 2000 when they split the baby and had 2 Miss Olympias. I still never understand really the point of it, but then I think about it now, as I said earlier, because they wanted a Miss Olympia that was something that the IB can advertise, push around, because Valentina Shafika was very attractive. She has a great look to it. And they wanted the Miss Olympia that the crowd liked, and that was Andrea Bichette. That's one reason.
I say getting rid of Miss International.
Yeah, that was a great show. I mean,
35 years going down the drain. Come on now.
Yeah, but that wasn't until 2013.
Yeah.
And then in 2000, though, you got to also remember it's on the heels of the 1999 Miss Olympia and the near disaster thereof, because one of the major sponsors were, I try to remember what her name was, but she pulled out of that show because the advanced ticket sales were so abysmally low for that they said, okay, well, we're going to then pull the show. Joe and Ben Weeder step in and say, no, we're not going to do that. So they did have the Miss Olympia, but for the first time ever, they put it in the expo hall rather on the main stage. And so 2000 is coming off on the heels of that. And then Jim Mannion writes a letter to all of the female bodybuilders saying, yeah, we want muscularity. And then in big, bold letters says, but not in the extreme. So they're wanting that to change because they're not apparently at the time, they didn't want to necessarily see it to disappear. So the following year, 2000, they decided to enter in lightweight class. They had that from 2000 to 2005. But you're right, 2000 is a unique year in that you had, instead of a lightweight and a lightweight and a heavyweight and then duke it out in the overall, which was 2001 to 2005, in 2000, it was 2 Miss Olympias. So that would be the historical reason why they did that, is they're trying to come up with some alternative so they wouldn't have to go through what happened in 1999 all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bring attention, And the next year came back was Julia Bergman. She wins the title. Some feel like, personally, I felt like it should have been Vicky Gates. That's just me. But, and then Linda came back. And I think when she came back, she kind of maybe helped a little bit. And then you have Iris Kyle, and Iris holds the title for a good while. And right by the time physique was coming in, and here comes, Jalen Bailey and quite
Dana Lynn Bale, yeah.
And then you had quite a few ladies coming from all the way from women's bodybuilding on down. Like Valentina, she moved down. Remember, Derek Kearns moved down. My late dear friend Ronnie Korsma, she came back and she moved down to women's physique. Somebody in the poster has talk about people like Zoe Lindsay, and Zoe was a pretty big girl. Zoe was at least 6 feet tall, and coming down from all the way from women's bodybuilding to women's physique. And Sheila Bleck. With Sheila, Sheila's kind of like, I put Sheila in the same lane as Sheena Olick. She's never going to really be as massive, but she has that great kind of. I would say I would compare Sheila Bleck to Sarah Vilgas, but I think she's a lot bigger than Sarah. Sarah was a little bit smaller if you look at her compared to if you look at someone like Sheila Bleck or even Sheena Olick.
Yeah, I agree.
We had here shout to my man here, Lawrence Perkins. Says, hello, brothers. Everyone's on the chat as well. I appreciate it, brother. Well, here's a video I'm gonna pull up here. This is from Jordan Lee. This is where, debate about how bikini is really evolving. And we have someone like Olympia, like Jordan Lee, she mentions the use of pads. And when you hear it from a bikini girl saying, what? They on pads? Here she goes. She says she's off 3 months. And here's a second. I clicked it. Come on.
Steroid in like 3 months. So, not bad. 40-pound dumbbells.
Yeah, she mentioned she's been all 3 months and she's doing 40-pound belts. Now, I've seen her and she's not a big girl. She has a great physique, a great look to her. Is it an example of how the division has evolved? Where you look at the girls in bikini, again, even off season, they look pretty good because with bikini, you have to maintain a certain shape. But you're seeing girls bikini lifting heavy, doing higher reps, more weights, and some of them right now could probably easily squeeze into a division like figure if they want. But again, it's about what the judges are rewarding. If you're awarding girls in bikini who look like they should be figure and not really saying, okay, this is the guideline we set for that division. We want you, you want you girls who are bikini come in softer. Like the same thing with Jeremy say about Jam Mannion talking about, and Jam Mannion's still head of the IFBB, but you know what? He's not doing much. Everything's is mostly in the hand of his grandson, Tyler. Tyler, I'm like this. You haven't competed. Yes, you've been around the sport, but you hadn't really been in the game. You hadn't had no skin in it. We know who you are. You're who your grandfather are, who your father are. He's basically say he's Michael Corleone. You know, he's Michael. His father JM is Fredo.
And he was appointed, not elected. So
Exactly.
another big thing
That's
to
a good-
point out
Yeah.
is that there was no election to decide him as to whether or not the competitors thought he
Like,
was good
should we
enough
get
to be
this guy?
the head of the guy. Yeah. So
Everybody raise their hand if you want this guy. What's that type of? He was just like thrown up in there, basically.
And just
And
just
then
last week he did. Go ahead.
all right, go ahead. Just the thing that strikes me: why in the hell is anybody in bikini on pets? Why? What is?
I mean, look at him.
Anastasia Ryder, she went on a podcast a while ago. They were talking about the crazy use of PEDs among bikini girls. She said that she knows of girls who are microdosing trenbolone. For people who are not familiar with trenbolone, that's 5 times stronger than regular male testosterone. And regular male testosterone, as opposed to the variations that you've got that are going out there, that shit will turn you from a woman into a man. And trenbolone is 5 times stronger than that. And according to Anastasia, there are bikini competitors who are microdosing tren. Why the hell would anybody in bikini even think of taking PEDs in the first place? What are you going to get out of PEDs that improved training and dieting won't do for you in bikini?
Mm-hmm.
What is the point from the get-go as to why you would do that? It makes no sense.
Just because I think that's one thing about bodybuilding, because it's influencer. It's because half the people they hang out with are bodybuilders. It's guys in bikini, guys in open, guys in classic. Some of them are in relationship with men that are in the sport. Some have coaches that are competitors, and they see it's like the old term: monkey see, monkey do. And
Basically.
And this is the reason why they brought in, fit model, because they want to get look back. But as we said earlier, it won't take it long for that division start to look like the division is supposed to be rebooting from.
Right, and then they'll come up with another one. They'll come up with another one and come up with the same rationale for it. And the whole cycle will follow all over again.
Yeah. And, and that's the question that goes back to when you come into the division, okay, you start off, I know quite a ladies who've done bikini first or done figure first. Then they eventually move up. And then you decide after time, especially if you get older and you don't put on the size and the mass like you used to, it's easy to go down. And what in some parts with the masters, they give that ability to switch back and forth. That's the only class we can double dip. Like I know ladies who've done masters, like I interviewed Ann Gruber. She done masters in both open women's bodybuilding and physique. I remember when she was doing an interview with us, she talked about how Sandy Wynn said that's somebody who deserves to be a head judge, who deserves to be maybe the head of. Because she understands.
Shout out Sandy.
This gave her an award for lifetime achievement. That's a nice thing, but you know what? Someone like Sandy who understands how the sport works, how it evolves, deserves a higher position.
She did.
Yeah, it says my man Jeremy had to drop out. Gotta go, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. I appreciate he coming through. He really gives some good feedback. I really appreciate it.
Insights. Yep.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable. He's our Merlin. But
that's right.
That's the thing. It goes back to what do you want in the criteria? Why are there no like if you're having competitors who look like they should be in a division, they should be penalized. You should be next to the bottom. You shouldn't be in top 3, top 5. If you look like you should be in women's bodybuilding or figure or physique, and depending on what division you are in. If you are a figure competitor and you have bigger shoulders, your trap's a lot larger, you have more, your quads are bigger, you don't have the smaller tapering waist for that division, where I would say more just to approach the competitor, say, hey, you know what? I don't think it's your division, And if you do go back down, and you decide to come back up, like what Jada did. She went over she did wellness for a bit, didn't work out. Now she's going back to physique.
Just dip your foot in the water and see how things go. That's what she did. Like, hey, this is for me. I'm going back to physique, basically.
We have your numbers. I just sent him a link, and he's picked it up. My man Alex. We haven't seen Alex in a while. Hey,
I
Alex.
shoot new haircut. Hey, my man.
Yeah, I just got off at work. Sorry I'm late.
That's all right.
Headed
That's
into
all
4
right.
o'clock. I had to rush as quick as I could. Just a
Well,
little
I know
multitasking.
I shoot. He got a little beard going. Okay, look at you.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
shave this off tomorrow anyway. I got work again tomorrow anyway. Got some things, got some couple barracks to do tomorrow.
So Alex, you've been to shows. You met some ladies. Do you feel like certain women belong in their right division? Or you feel like some people should go to the division that fits their aesthetic?
Well, like I said before, it truly depends on the athlete herself. If she's happy with her division, she can keep doing it. If whatever she was placed below is, or if what the judge is not satisfied, she has the choice to either, change or retire. It's up to them. Not it's up to them. It's all personal. It's just up to them. That's all I can. I'm fine with either direction they take.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's personal. But also, the thing is, also genetics too is a factor. And if you are a woman who can put on more size and muscle, and you're in a division that you don't fit, well, I understand that you want to stay in the division because your personal reason. But if you're not doing well, if you are not placing well, like I'm seeing ladies who were doing physique, but then moved to women's body. A good example, Sherry Priami. She struggled. She competed a good while. She did all right, but then when she moved up to women's bodybuilding, she got 2 Olympic qualifications.
Yep.
She could have got a third.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand where she's coming from. Yeah, and I respect, the decision she's making. This is going to be her swan song year, so I'm hoping she makes the best out of it before her, retiring out of competition. I mean, you could tell she's a hardworking lady. She's a mother of 3, works as a dental hygienist. It's sometimes not easy to do all 3 at the same time, and I understand and respect that.
Yeah, and she mentioned she did an interview with man Glenn at the Amazon Fitness magazine. She's gonna be her last year.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Swan song. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, swan song. That's what I meant. Yeah, her final year.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, because and I think as fans, it's like we heard that Helen Trevino has retired. It's when we hear some of these retire, it's like we're gonna miss them, but we still have pictures and videos. They're gonna be still around, but it's not be on the stage anymore.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that as long as they're helping others, or others becoming their successors, or somewhere between. I'm fine with that. It's like a cycle. It's a cycle. It's like the circle of life. We're born, we live, we die. It continue.
The circle of life.
Sing it.
It's a Simba.
Yeah, great movie. Yeah, I know. Generally speaking, yeah, great movie.
When he said that, I immediately thought Lion King.
Came out the year when I was born. It's still one of my favorites to this day.
Dang, you made me feel old, boy. Yeah, I think, how old was I when we came out? I think I was just in my early 20s. Yeah, shit. I mean,
I know the French. Yeah, the series went through a lot. Had a spin-off TV show, a couple spin-off TV shows, 2 direct-to-video sequels, a live-action remake, and a prequel to that, and of course a Broadway musical. It's considered one of the biggest franchises Disney has made, and to think Pocahontas was supposed to be their biggest hit at the time, but The Lion King was the one that took the crown.
Yeah, I remember, it was a great movie. I remember when my niece and nephew saw it, they loved that movie. They were little kids then. Wow, now they're, grown with, kids and the kids about grown. But the aesthetics of how bodybuilding evolved over time, how the women have grown, how the men have grown, and also trying to find that right place where you fit in. That's the thing is, like, we talk about Christine Mendoza. She's moving down to wellness. Another lady who's moving down to wellness is Julia Wetzel. And to me, with Julia, I don't know. It may not work as good for her as it would for as other competitors. Because with Julia, she's kind of a tall girl, and that thing goes back to the taller women. They can struggle in a certain division. Now, I think bikini figure, I think it does good for taller women because the height thing. They want more slender, more kind of a slender, tall look to them. But then if you are going to a division where you're supposed to be a certain build, a certain height, and if you are maybe not that specific parameters where you are anybody, I would say this, anybody past 5'5", honestly, I think they're going to struggle a bit in that division. Now, she has posted some stuff here and there. We're not sure, because she did like one thing. She said she did a reality show with the Mr. Beast show, and
Yeah.
she lost 40 pounds. Okay, I would say you lost 40 pounds. I wouldn't go all the way down to wellness. Either go back to WPD or do, figure. I mean, she's getting there, but then even
I mean, the wellness part is there, the lower. She needs to work on it a little bit more. The glutes and hamstring, yeah, she needs to come in a little bit more.
yeah. But see, in wellness, you have to do a lot more extra leg work because they want that roundness in your glutes. They want that next hamstring connection. And again,
at least once a week for upper body.
Yeah, you have to really pull back on your upper body because you can't bring too much. You don't want your arms to be too big, too dense, and you don't want too much roundness in your shoulder. That's why one thing when they do when they do back poses, you don't see the back because they want to see the details.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of her clients here, and she kind of fits. I think not so much wellness. I could say bikini. She still has, still don't have the overall, fullness in the glutes for wellness. Not as the tie-ins are not as well. It's still developing, but maybe just do bikini and see how you do before you really seriously get into a division like wellness, because it's just again, who dominates that division? The Brazilians. They've been dominating for the last
Brazilians, no doubt.
Last 5 or 6 years. Some ladies
going on 6 years. Yeah.
Some ladies who are of another ethnicity or ethnic background done fairly well, but then we go to the bigger shows and you bring in certain competitors who have those strong aesthetics. It's a struggle. Shout out to my man here. Notice says, do you think that FEB are underrated towards men's bodybuilders? Well, I can't really say what the men think because, like I said, I don't follow the guys like that. Most of them,
I don't follow the guys.
They respect the female counterparts, but generally they, I think, prefer certain. Some guys probably prefer something more aesthetically pleasing, more feminine. Now, I knew quite a few guys who are bodybuilders who are in a relationship with women who are in bikini or figure or wellness, and some who are in relationships with physique competitive bodybuilders. Again, I can't tell you what the guy thinks because, like I said, I don't pay attention that much to them. My challenge is about paying attention to what the women want and what they're looking for. But again, it's always going to be the men's division is always going to be the ones that get attention. They're the ones that need the money. They're the ones who can go as big and huge and massive as they want because there's no real guidelines for men. Now, like with 212, they don't like it because they feel like it's smaller guys, and that's one thing I know this, especially when I do content MMA. They don't like the smaller divisions in MMA because they don't like smaller guys. They like the bigger guys. I think the highest they like to go from anything from middleweight is probably the lowest they like to all the way up to super heavyweight. And but the thing is about that's fighting. Those guys sometimes can move more, go faster than their bigger counterparts. But with men and women, there's always going to be that biological separation. Men have natural testosterone; they can build muscle and size faster than women, and women have to use stuff to help them to get that way. But we go back to the thing where bikini competitors are using it, and like Jeremy mentioned, turnabout. No, I heard this stuff because I've heard fighters.
Yeah, I heard that stuff too.
Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't. It's one thing I heard somebody say. For bikini competitors, it's a lot harder because they have to maintain. Because they have to maintain a certain look, very streamlined, very feminine, and that's the hard part to do. But with the other divisions, they can grow, put on size, develop. They're given that little bit of leeway. But if you're doing like a division like Fit Model, you have to maintain a very ordinary, everyday girl look, the beach body girl look. But after a while, some of those women are going to be influenced by what they see in the other divisions where women are growing, developing. Quite a few ladies, a couple ladies I interviewed actually did bikini, they went towards to Fit Model. And they feel like to get the pro card Fit Model, they want to go back into bikini when it hit its pros, because this is a gateway division for them. They're not going to really be as committed to it after a while. But then there are some going to be committed to it, but after a while, they just say, you know what, I'm developing, I'm growing. I may not fit the division anymore. I may want to go up. And then with some others, they feel like it's a struggle for them, so that's why some will go down. It's just, again, it's about what the judges are rewarding. And if they're rewarding girls in a division where it shouldn't be as big and full, but they are getting big and full, that's the problem with the judges. And that's the thing, they have to go appease them as much more than appease themselves. Shout out to a man. No says this is, if you can't imagine ancient Apollo or Hercules in a ancient Greece, what's the closest men bodybuilder today or in history compared to Apollo, or this is Apollo or Hercules? Well, the Greek guys weren't as big. So if you go by who, I would say I won't know Pacific guys, but I say the men's classic. Men's classic might be closer to the Greek god look. Most of the time, it was always like those guys weren't as muscle as built, because that's different time to look. Truthfully, there's no real answer to that, because statues and pictures and stuff like that are often exaggerated a little bit. So if anything, if you compare it to superheroes, like some people didn't like the new Superman because he looked kind of like a little lean, little guy compared to the Henry Cavill, or compared to Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves actually had to put on 20 more pounds to play Superman, because he was tall, but he says this. He says probably Arnold. You can say Lou Ferrigno, or you could say one person I would say who kind of like was the blueprint for a particular hero I used to like watching as a kid. Tom Plaza. I always believe he was the blueprint for He-Man.
Oh yeah, Tom Platt.
Yeah, Tom Platz. I call him Plaza. Is Platz. Okay, yeah. But he looked. Because the blonde hair, the big quads. He was.
I have the power.
There will be a new He-Man movie coming out next month. I mean, this coming month.
Yeah, I saw a thing where the new He-Man gave the old He-Man, Dolph Lundgren, gave the sword to the new He-Man.
I can really tell. I think this might be. Let me tell you, this was in development for so long. I mean, they've been trying to do a new He-Man movie for years. There were a couple of actors that almost did it, but they had to bail out and then they had to go start over from scratch. And it looks promising. I think it looks very faithful to the cartoon, more faithful than what the original '80s movie did.
Well, I think one people had big issues like Idris Elba's playing Man at Arms, Duncan. It's the waist swapping issue they have with that. But
I'm used to it. I'm used to it. I've seen. It doesn't matter as long as they play the character. As long as they stay true to the character, regardless of how they look. That's all. That's fine to me.
One movie I'm still waiting for them to finally to get to work on is Thundercats.
That's going to be a hard one to do. I know. Imagine trying to get a physical, athletic woman to play Tiger. Sorry, Cheetara.
Chitara.
Yeah, Margie Martin's favorite superhero.
Yeah. I think there's some ladies out there because if you go back to your cartoon, Chitara was very tall, athletically built. You have to get that one within that parameter. You don't have to be like a Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, but within that great physique, great look to it. I think the big part is with the guy like Lionel Panthro, the person two people who could have played a good Panthro. First off, the late Michael Durkin Clark. He would have been perfect, but he's long gone.
Yeah, I did see his physique. Yeah, he kind of does remind me what he would look like if he put on makeup or mix up CGI, if that was possible, to play him. I can see that. I definitely see that. I can definitely see that. I'm picturing it right now. Yes, I definitely see that.
But I think the person that could probably do it now is Terry Crews.
I think if he's still in good shape, yeah, I'm sure he'll still do it.
He's still in good shape. I think Terry's just not even 60 yet. He might be at 60, if not 60 yet. He's still in good shape. He does American Guy's Talent. Sometimes he comes on without a shirt, does a little pec dance. He's still in decent shape. Lionel maybe has to be a young actor, not too young enough.
I mean, I know there was a cartoon. There was a early 2000s cartoon, not the super cartoony one, the one that came out before it. I could see a young person playing about that age. I think he would play, a reasonable young man, similar to what the new He-Man's going through. It's kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can get it some deep, and you don't need with like characters like Mumra and the rest of them, just mostly, like just get a voice actors for like, Slythe and Monkey and Jackalman, just get a CGI develop creatures and just have voice actors. But I think good part of the Thundercats have to be humans, which is a little maybe make up a CGI work on them. They can do that, mix it in, like what they did with the Nick Fury series, what they did with the Scroll.
Yeah, that series. Yeah, people didn't like. I heard people didn't like that one.
Yeah, and it's hit and miss. After anything.
Yeah, no, MCU's hit and miss. I'm sure Endgame will hopefully redeem it in some shape or form.
Well, you got the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, where you pretty much
that's what I meant to say. Sorry, I meant to say Doomsday. Yeah, the new one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Honestly.
It looks promising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We got here, my man here, Jeff coming through. He says, "Hey George, happy Memorial Day."
Happy Memorial Day.
Also, he says,
hello.
"Hey Josh,
hey, how's it going? Happy Sunday fun day."
But like I said, I was hoping to have some people on here to talk about this. But I do appreciate you guys, like you, Jeremy, Josh, Alex, even Kale coming on here, because I would like to hear from the ladies. And again, I know ladies, you got lives, you're busy, yada. I've told this thing in a week in advance. I told you I'm gonna have this. But again, it's up to you. This is about your sport. And somebody say, well, my voice doesn't matter. But the thing is, if you don't feel like your voice doesn't matter, why do you compete? Why you want to, why you complain? Shut the hell up. Get used to it. Don't complain when something's happening. Come on. This is why I have these shows. If you want to really say something, you have something in your chest. Nobody's really watching me. Don't worry about your man and him and whatever else. They're not really watching me. Don't pay attention to me. I'm not nobody that's on their eyesight. This is about you have feelings about this sport, and you should share them, because the fact is, after a while, it's going to eat away with you. Hey, you know what? Why I'm seeing this? Why I'm seeing that? Why this girl plays this? Why I'm that? Some of them not going to complain, but eventually, after a while, you get tired of it. You want to see your sport do better. You want to see opportunities for it. And it's going to take people who want to fight for it. If you don't want, I don't have no skin in the game. I'm a fan. And I see things, and I feel like I want to point these things out. And I want to get your feedback and your feeling on these things. Like, you feel like, is it right? Is it fair? Should the criteria change? Should there be some limitations when it comes to when the competitor decides to switch? Like, if you switch divisions, should you go back to the amateur status and start up and climb back up to as an amateur? Because hey, you became a pro, in that particular division that time, but then you get that open door, so I can go back if I want, but I don't have to go through all the rigmarole as an amateur. It's a question that I think people should really think about, what they really want out of the sport.
Yeah, what criteria they really want.
Yeah, if you complain about how one competitor looks, then tell that competitor, they're not going to care. They're going to keep coming in the best shape or best condition in that division, and you feel like, hey, my division look like this, look like that. Well, say something. Get enough people. If you get enough people to say something can be changed. But the fact is, you don't want to. You're complacent. You are in your own feelings about it. So you know what? Why should I care? But I do, because I'm a fan. Shout out to my man. It says, I was going to come on, but I'm tired. All right, I understand, brother. But I'm doing have a little something tomorrow. I'm gonna have some little fun.
Shoot, I'm waiting for this one.
As you know,
should women's bodybuilding be more like professional wrestling? My personal opinion, yes. But anyway.
Yeah, bodybuilding in general, not just women, but bodybuilding in general. Because
bodybuilding. I mean, we got quite a taste of it during that Andrew Jackson, Derek Lunsford Olympia battle. I guess it's still they had like a little argument. They got in each other's face or something like that.
Yeah, and that thing is, I think people like that. If they bring that a little more to, because remember,
and it got people talking at that.
Yeah, remember years ago, Vince McMahon even started his own bodybuilding federation. It was short-lived because of issues, steroids, and like that. And some of the bodybuilders want to go back to the IFBB, but then they had to get paralyzed and like that, and they couldn't compete in the IB for like a year or more because of suspension, but they still came back. But if bodybuilding itself, if it wants more attention, maybe do some little more controversy, a little more. It has to be a little bit more of sports entertainment. Like stuff like look at a guy like Nick Walker and Bob Chiquillo, their little arguments every now and then. People pay attention.
Yeah, stuff
but,
like that.
Yeah, and we have
go back
no
to the day when Kai Green and go back to the day when Kai Green and what's his name? Shoot,
Phil
had a little Phil he had a little shoving match. I like stuff like that.
The thing is that it's up to these competitors if they want to make these changes, and also it's up to the IFB to feel like they can do more. Because you know what, you want these people to compete in your organization. You want them to do this. You have to be able and willing to bring the audience. The audience will come if you bring them something they like to watch and see. As you know, we're the fans who do watch and pay attention to sport, but not like I said, the other 99.9% of the world is not. So, but if you do a little something that maybe get a little attention to it, maybe it gets a little more forward. It takes time. And also, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. So, gentlemen, I do appreciate y'all for coming through. Shout out to my man Nodos. Shout out to my man Jeff coming through. Shout out to my man Lawrence Perkins coming through. Kale the Wanderer. Jeremy, Female Muscle. You guys got anything you got to say before we let you go?
Yes.
Do you want to go first, Josh, or should I?
Oh, you can go first.
As much as I want to join tomorrow, I can't. They need me at work. It's Memorial Day. It's very busy. A lot of people are. It was pretty busy as it was last night. So I'm gonna be. I won't be here. So maybe next Monday I can definitely join. I can join in.
All right, I'll be here. If like I said again, if y'all have a subject you want me to talk about, so you want to discuss, you can shout me a DM or leave something in the comment section, something that you might be interested in talk about. Because sometimes, this was something I put together because I like to have these some discussions. I was hoping to have some people come on here and to give me some feedback, but it's hard. It's holiday season, and usually sometimes people got things they're doing, whatever, training, prepping, whatever. I understand that, but again, this is why I do this. This is about you ladies, and this is about bringing attention to yourself and your sport. That's why I want you to come on here and share your stories, talk about what's going on, what you see, what you feel, what your thoughts about how bodybuilding has changed or what way it should go. No one else is offering these opportunities like other than myself. My man David, he did a couple interviews. Shout out to my man David. Also the Female Body Challenge. Just saw the interview with Sarah Bradley. It's a pretty good one. She's coming to the Ultimate Classic. That's coming up this Saturday.
This week, Saturday.
And the thing about this one, that promoter finally is doing a pay-per-view, a live stream. And he never done it before. So I'm tempted because I don't know. Personally,
I'm gonna be at work next week. I wish I could watch it.
Personally, I don't buy live stream shows that don't support women's bodybuilding. But the whole thing with Sarah Bradley, it kind of intrigues me. Also, my man did
curiosity with you, huh?
Yeah. What you got to say, Josh, before I let you go?
Oh, make sure that you join the Empire Nation on Instagram. And ladies, I want to see you out there competing in any division. Keep up the good work because you got to get in where you fit in. And you got to be all gas and no breaks with it. Know what I mean? But anyway, shout out to you guys. Keep up the good work. Shout out to you, George. Shout out to you, Alex. Keep up the good work with your artwork and stuff. And I'd like to see more of it. That's all I got to say.
Well, brother, I appreciate that. I appreciate you both. I appreciate all y'all who come here. Y'all guys are y'all fans. You may not be fans as much as sport, but you're fans of the ladies, and that's very appreciative. But again, tomorrow we're gonna have a little fun. We have, I hope everybody's enjoying the holidays. Right now, where I'm at in North Carolina, it is raining cats and dogs. It just started raining just a few minutes ago. So I'm hearing the rain hitting now.
Yeah, it's rain all week. Yeah, it's going to be rain on and off this week. So, yeah, it was a little rough for me last night. But I think it will be okay for me.
Yeah. I know, but, because, it's Memorial Day weekend. I hope y'all enjoying it.
Thank you.
Tomorrow will be Monday. But usually on Monday, I gotta go. But you got that nice long weekend. But then you realize it's going to be Monday. Tomorrow's going to be Tuesday. Time flies, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So, Yeah. So anyway, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I appreciate y'all thoughts. I appreciate you support my channel, my content. I appreciate who watch this video, watch this live. Enjoy this rest of your day, and also to the family, to Suchi Butler, my condolences to you. I mean, it's a sad loss to lose somebody who was just a wonderful person who dedicated herself to the sport, and again, it goes back to people, to men and women who do this sport. If you are ever in a situation where life is getting you down, and when you feel like you have issues of mental, not just the physical part, but mental issues, reach out. There are places and programs that are willing to help you. And especially if you're concerned about homelessness, hey, it's tough. But if you can find a friend, or if you have somebody who can help you, just tell, hey, if I can sleep on your couch for a couple of nights, if I can find a place to stay, if I can get some help, if there are people who are willing to, let people know ahead of time before you get to that point where you have nothing to lose. There are people out there who want to help you. You just have to be willing to, and also put your pride to the side. That's one thing. You have to put your pride to the side. You have to step. One thing I learned about doing this content, I have to realize I have to get out of my own way. If anybody who's the most biggest person who are in the way of my who are create obstacles, it's myself. Don't use excuses why you think, and yes, some people may not be willing to help you, but sometimes kindness of strangers. This is a true story with me. I remember this was like around by the pandemic. I was shopping. I had a few dollars left in my food stamp card, because back then they would give you extra money. And it wasn't that much, maybe a few $100s, just to keep me going to the end of the month. So, and it was a grocery store. The lady said, "How much you got there, sir?" I said, "Well, I got this. This is all I had." So, she told the lady, "I'm paying for it. Let them go through, and I'll pay for it." She paid for
Oh
me.
wow.
I didn't know this lady from Adam. She was with her family, and you know what? That was just kindest thing ever done for me. I mean, from a stranger. A couple of times I have some people do some things for me. Sometimes I have people that know me do something for me, but she did a nice thing in the world. That really made my day. It gave me extra. I had a few more extra dollars on my food stamp card left. So hey, I can spend that maybe next month. So I have to worry about having extra to keep me going. But that was some kindness. Then I looked on the bottom. You show you how much, because you work at grocery store, but you're like,
Yeah.
she had, but whoa. I mean, I looked at how much was after you tell you what's the amount left after you take out your stuff, and I saw what she had left on her card. Woo! I mean, I could have stocked up my deep freezer for the entire month. Still have something left over. Ugh. But you know what, people, those little things do count. And if you are someone who's struggling, especially if you're a bodybuilder, and you know what, I got free time. I don't got nothing to do. If you feel like you want somebody to talk to, just to, I'm a ear. I can have a conversation back and forth. I would love to have to meet her in person. I want to give shout out to Helen Trevino. That was a friend of hers and a client. Also Gina Cavell. They knew her too. That's just hard to lose a friend. And I hope she can find peace where she at, and also condolences to her family. So again, off that, gentlemen, I thank you again. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to y'all. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your week. And like I said, you're always welcome back here with me.
Thank you for having me, sir.
You're welcome, sir. All right, folks, this is your man, always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. Good night. Good luck. God bless. And enjoy the moment. And also salute to the people who have served and sacrificed on behalf of this country.